Do you think transferring wealth to your kids or the next generation while keeping control is impossible? Think again, because today we're exploring the Optimized Gift Trust, better known as the OGT. Picture this. You take the next few minutes to learn how to secure your family's financial future while avoiding massive inheritance taxes, protecting assets from creditors, and maintaining maximum control. Sounds like a win-win to me. Oh, and stick around until the end for a resource to help you get on the right path for setting up an optimized gift trust for you and your family's long-term wealth. I'm Rich Smith, and I simplify complex financial strategies to help business owners and high net worth individuals succeed. Today, we're joined by Jonathan Morrison, the innovator behind the OGT strategy, whose experts in estate planning have been featured in publications like Forbes and Barron's. If you're building wealth or planning your estate, understanding the OGT could be the key to minimizing taxes and ensuring your legacy lasts for generations. In this conversation, we'll uncover how the OGT works, its unique advantages, and actionable steps to implement this powerful tool for wealth transfer. It's easy to assume advanced trusts like the OGT are too complex or only for the ultra wealthy. But Jonathan will break it all down for you. So let's dive into this fascinating conversation. Starting in the beginning with the basics, what exactly is a gift trust and how does it work?
Yeah, so most people think of gifts as like buying something as a present. Well, gifts are a huge way in my world for very wealthy families to start transferring wealth outside of their estate. Most people don't know, but if you're really wealthy, or if you've got a very valuable business or real estate, at death, when you pass away, you've got to file a federal estate tax return, not a federal income tax return that you file every year, but an estate tax return where you have to report the value of everything that this person passed away with. And if they're over a certain limit, which right now is about 13 million for a single person or 27 million for a married couple, there's a 40% tax. So imagine $100 million, that's like a $30 million tax that has to be paid 9 months after you die. That tax is notoriously easy to to avoid if you plan for it, usually 20 plus years before you die. We can usually wipe out that tax. It requires some planning. And one of the main ways we do that is through large gifts.
Okay. I was shocked when you said those numbers, and I just am thinking to myself, everyone wants to win the lottery. We talked about lottery winners before. Imagine you win the lottery and you think not only are you set for life, your kids are set for life, but if you don't take the right steps, like you mentioned, 20, 30 years, before your death, all of a sudden those lottery winnings, they could vanish because you owe close to 50%. I know you said 40%, but I heard 50 in my head because it's essentially half.
Yeah.
So
and those assets are also exposed while you're living to future lawsuits or creditors. So that's sort of a secondary benefit of these gift trusts.
Interesting. Well, then let's dive into it. I know that you specifically are someone who can help with optimized gift trusts. And I wanted to know, essentially, what are those primary benefits, if we could start there?
Yeah. So again, to keep it simple, wealthy families need to make large gifts, ideally is early in life. So let's say take a $10 million piece of real estate, that might grow to 50 million by the time they die. But if I could gift that $10 million piece of real estate to my kids, well, when I die, I don't own that $50 million real estate anymore. And so there's limits. There's a gift tax. You can't unlimited gift as much as you want. There's a gift tax, it's 40%, just like at death. So, but in any event, yeah, wealthy families, to minimize taxes when they die, have to make these huge gifts. And nobody wants to give an asset directly to their young child. And so they want the control. So that's why we use the mediums of gift trusts. The idea is to gift it out of my client's name so they no longer own it. If they're sued while they're living or at death, the inheritance tax. But most clients say, well, how much control can I have over that gift trust, right? What if What if I need to get the asset back, or I don't want to give it to my kids. I want to give it to charity or something like that. So you say, well, okay, you got to build control mechanisms into that trust, that gift trust. Well, there's limits. There's tax limits. There's credit law limits on how much control you can have. So about 5 years ago, I developed this what I call an optimized gift trust. It's got about 30 plus access points, powers, all sorts of things to give wealthy parents maximum control over that gift trust to really address any circumstance that might come up in the future. It's got lots of levers and pulleys to be able to make changes, but that allows our wealthy families to gift that full $13 million limit or $27 million a married couple into a gift trust, start building that wealth off their balance sheet, and still have comfort knowing that, okay, if I need to make changes or take really any action, we've got mechanisms to do that.
It's so interesting to hear this. And I just want to maybe try to clarify for some people. They've heard of trust before, like a trust that they would set up. And this one sounds different. Is this something like kind of you created? It seems like a little hybrid, state of the art.
Yeah. So trust in my world, I'm a high-end estate attorney. Trust is like saying a trust is like saying ice cream. And there's literally 31 different flavors of trusts. And when I call this optimized gift trust, again, I've added yet another flavor. I was trying to simplify things. What I meant by optimize is we're going to pack this gift trust with every single power, every feature to the maximum limit that the tax code allows without causing, IRS risk. Everything's within IRS rulings. I've never had any of my clients, known audits of any of my plans over 20 years. I'm a conservative estate planner. I'm not risky. But yeah, the optimized gift trust combines, all sorts of, I'll list some of them, kind of geek speak, but it qualifies as a generation skipping trust, a dynasty trust, an intentionally defective grantor trust, irrevocable life insurance trust, a spousal life access trust, a SLAT. It's kind of got all these things I'm talking about are features of gift trusts, but there's no standardization in my field. So I decided, why don't we just take everything and put it into one big hybrid? And then I wrote the paper and it made the cover of the National Estate Planning Journal in May of 2024, my second time doing it. Basically just saying, hey, let's put the whole kitchen sink in and here's all the supporting IRS rulings. And so, yeah, I've done, I think, over 200 of these OGTs in the last 5 years that I've created it. I think over $3 billion of gifts. Because, again, the biggest, in my world, my clients don't want to transfer. They say, I'm great. I want to save my kids' inheritance taxes, but I come first, and I want to be able to control. So most attorneys say, well, you got to make these big gifts to these trusts. And a lot of clients say, there's not enough control. So I really package this thing up in a way that gives comfort to my clients that, we've got access points and powers all over the place. So if you ever need to make a change or get it or, do whatever, we've got ways to do it. It unlocks a lot of gifts that way.
Yeah. And when you say gift, I'm thinking assets, and immediately I start thinking about stocks or land, but maybe we could just list off a few. What type of assets can be transferred into the OGT?
Yeah, you're really trying, again, we're trying, I joke, clients hire me to make them poor when they die. They've already gotten themselves too wealthy and their spending isn't enough. So they're going to keep getting wealthy. I've got all these financial models that I've developed over the years. I run them real time with new prospective clients. And I show them, look, in 30 years, you're going to be worth $200 million and an $80 million inheritance tax if you don't do anything about it. And so they need to artificially make themselves poor. And how do you do that? You can't spend enough and you're investing at 10% rate of return. And so you need to artificially make yourself poor by starting to transfer assets out of your name. And so obviously if you're limited to a $13 million gift limit, well, you're going to want to gift assets that have the highest appreciation potential, right? Mm-hmm. When I was in Silicon Valley, I remember we were doing the Facebook IPO. And so you better believe, a couple years before the IPO, we're transferring as much Facebook stock as we can to these types of gift trusts so that when the IPO pops, all that appreciation occurs outside of their estate.
Right.
So, highly appreciating stock. Most of my clients are business owners that think they're going to sell for 5 times what it's worth today. Getting business shares out. A lot of investment real estate clients, getting that out. I've got crypto clients. Anything that you think is going to really appreciate, we want to get out into this type of gift trust.
That's very interesting, because I think you hit on a few different audiences there that people that they could kind of start to consider this. So I guess the natural question is, who should consider this? For example, let's say I'm the millionaire next door, like I paid off my house. I listen to Dave Ramsey. I drive my Toyota. And is this for me, or do I need to hit 10 million? You mentioned 100 million. Like where would someone start to consider this in their net worth journey?
Yeah, I joke a lot on these initial Zooms I have with clients. I say, look, I'm plenty busy and I'm happy to talk myself out of a job. You're a case that does not need this. You're not above the wealth limit. And other cases say you need to run, like you should have done this yesterday. It comes down to the exemption. How much can you give to your kids? That's in flux. I said it right now. It's 13 million per person. It's about 13.5 per person per spouse. In 2026, in less than a year and a half, that exemption is going to go down to probably somewhere around 6 million. So for a married couple, that's about 12 million. And so I'm already very busy. Last time they were changing the exemptions, I did 100. I think I did more than 100 OGTs. I'll probably do at least 100 in the next 14 months. But I use a rule of thumb. I usually say for a single person, somewhere around 10 million, and for a married couple, maybe somewhere around 15 million. Again, if that is all in a concentrated business that's going to sell for 10 times what it's worth in 3 years, well, that might be a $5 million company or limit. We need to get that business out. So it's really, how much do you expect to have at death? If you're a retiree and you've got your married couple with 10 million, no, you don't need to do this.
Right.
But if you're in your 50s and you've got a successful business and some real estate worth 10 million, well, we should probably look at this. 20 million plus, absolutely. It's not just the changes in 26, but it's also congressional sort of legislation. They really came close in 21 to killing these types of gift trusts off and really patching the estate tax. Fortunately, the Building Back Better bill didn't go through. 2 senators, Sinema and Manchin, killed it. But if that type of legislation comes down the road again, you'd want to get this set up and get grandfathered in. That bill had grandfathering. So a lot of wealthy families were trying to get this done before Biden signed that into law in 2021, because you would have been grandfathered in. So that's perhaps more important than the exemptions going up and down, is getting a gift trust like this funded before legislation might kill them off. You want to get grandfathered in.
Yeah. And at the time of this recording, is there a sense of urgency? Because you mentioned a potential date where things could essentially change.
Yeah.
I know sometimes these things take a little while to figure out and set up. So let's say it's January 2025. How much time do I have to get my affairs in order, if you will?
In any, outside of like San Francisco or New York or something where there's 50 of me, most smaller markets, even Phoenix, really only has a couple of I've done 500 transactions over my 20-year career. It's hard to find 500 clients that have $20 million net worths in most minor markets. So there's really a limited number of Jonathan Morrisons in any kind of market, and so we get buried with again, I told you I did over 100 of those back in 21. So I had a line out the door. I eventually had to say no more. My fees just shot up, spike pricing, whatever you call it. So if you've got a net worth of 10 plus, especially if there's a big potential for that to increase, you should really, really call somebody like me up ASAP before we just get too busy. It's a limited number, supply demand issue.
That makes a lot of sense. I know everyone likes to wait to the last minute. They don't like to admit that they do, but that's pretty much human nature. So, Jonathan, I was looking over some of the frequently asked questions on the website, and I don't know if this would be getting too much into the weeds, but there was a term that even I didn't understand, something called standard powers. Is that
Oh.
something people need to know about? Should we dive into it? Is it too nitty gritty?
Yeah, so what I did with the optimized gift trust is, again, I try to package things up and productize things and make it very easy. Most of my clients are business owners. They find this boring and annoying, complex, and it is,
Right.
unless you're in it and you enjoy it like me. So anyways, in that FAQ, I kind of break down the OGT as sort of standard powers and enhanced powers. The standard ones are the IRS says absolutely no problem, like the power to direct investments. If I gift assets to the gift trust, I can control the investments for the rest of my life. IRS has no problem with that. There's other powers that have some level of risk, very small, very slight. I put those under enhanced powers. So there's some powers that, if you want to take a little bit more risk, like a 1 out of 10 to 2 out of 10, then I call those enhanced. But yeah, I just package all those powers. I think there's like 15 powers that I classify in there.
Well, that makes sense. And when you were saying powers, it empowered me. I was thinking, this is more like basic powers, normal,
Mm-hmm.
maybe superpowers,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it all comes down to options, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
have
can list a couple of them.
yeah,
Yeah, I can list. I mean, like the power. If you gift $10 million property into this gift trust, what can you do with it? Well, you can direct the investments. That means you control the sale of that property later and reinvesting it or exchanging it. You can borrow from the gift trust. Hey, I want to take out $1 million and borrow from it. You control the borrowing. You can swap assets. The IRS said that was okay in 2008. So I can take my $10 million property out and put $10 million of Bitcoin in. Swaps, that's okay. If I'm married, I can name my spouse as a beneficiary, so I can gift in, and then if I need to take money out, we can go through my spouse to get money out. Those are called slap powers. So you got all these access points, and again, the OGT is designed to put everything in there that the IRS has approved or they've lost cases over the years on, which there's been a lot of IRS losses in the last 40 years, which we're at the golden age of estate planning because we can package up this gift trust with so much access points. And again, borrowing legislation, there's really nothing we can't do with this type of optimized gift trust.
Well, let's speak to the IRS a little bit. What would you say is the audit risk for something like this? You always are going to have that Debbie Downer or that neighbor that says like, "Oh no, I heard you do one of those," and they're going to come
Yeah.
knocking on your door. But in your experience, what is the audit risk?
I mean, statistically, there's less than a 1% audit rate on gifts that are made. So you file a gift tax return.
Mm-hmm.
At death, there's almost a 100% chance right now that somebody at the IRS will at least look at it. Maybe not a full-blown audit. Again, I've never had any of my vehicles, no known audits, but somebody will look at this. And so then it comes down to really the strength of the document. We haven't really touched on this, but again, I mentioned, most estate attorneys don't have 500 advanced plan transactions under their belt. There's a lot of attorneys who do basic wills and trusts. They might have one wealthy family and they've listened to some seminar from some attorney out of New York, and now they think they can do this stuff. This is notoriously complex. There's so many ways to mess up gift trust planning so that at death, it gets all subject to the 40% inheritance tax. So you really have to master all the rules behind it, and then you have to operate it correctly. I've got an instruction manual that goes out at the end of the process. Here's how you operate it. Call me up, annual reviews, free of charge, just to make sure you're doing it correctly. So the audit risk really comes down to the strength of the document and was the structure being respected during life. And if the IRS audits and they either find weak documents that blow some of these rules, or it just wasn't being operated correctly, they're going to hit 40% inheritance tax on that whole trust. So
Right.
It's got to be. This isn't the area to go cheap. I tell clients, look, I take a limited number of cases, charge a premium fee, but you buy my brain. I don't have any junior lawyers. Everything. I do everything. I do the financial modeling, annual reviews. It's just that's really rare in my field. Most senior lawyers are passing work down, losing control. They don't know where it is. Some junior lawyers making mistakes. They're not going to catch it. So I think there's a lot of premium built into actually, buying the brain of somebody that's done this 500 times.
Yeah. I'm sure that comes at a cost. How do the fees work? If you could just speak to that a little bit.
You never get another bill again. Even if you want to add assets,
Wow.
swaps, amend, unless it's I've never enforced it, but unless it's some major transaction, we reserve the right to charge hourly fees. But the way I work everything, wills and trusts or the OCLAD or the OGT, there's a published fee schedule, almost always tax deductible. So you get to actually deduct our fee for setting this stuff up. But it's a one-time upfront fee. It's not like most law firms, they charge a pretty good upfront fee, but then there's ongoing hourly billings. You call your lawyer and they charge you for a 0.3, you get a $400 bill. Clients hate that. Business owners hate that. And I don't want people to be fearful of calling me for annual reviews. So I say, I just charge upfront fee, and then I tell you, you're never going to get another bill the rest of your life related to the OGT. If your CPA wants to call me, you want to add assets, you want to amend, I've got everything, systems and processes that I can get things done very quickly. And so I basically bet on the fact that, it's not going to take hundreds of hours in the future. If I do it up front correctly, and I have a nice instruction manual, CPA, the client, everybody's operating it correctly, I'm betting there won't be a whole lot of future work for me. So I kind of put my money where my mouth is on that.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, for those of you that are interested and want to get in touch, I will leave a link down below in the description of this video. And keep in mind some of the things Jonathan said, if you'd be a good fit, ideal client, that type of thing. Jonathan, as we wrap this up, it sounds like more people could probably use this in their life with their family. Any anecdotal stories, funny stories, oops stories, somebody wish they would have found you sooner? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, well, we're talking about the federal inheritance tax. And again, we can, like this OGT for 500 years under Arizona law is exempt from estate tax. So it's not just wiping it out at the parents level, but no more inheritance taxes down for generations. All of the assets are protected from creditors, lawsuits, divorce. I mean, it's a pretty strong benefit. But it requires clients to really come before they built their wealth. So I've had a number of cases in the last 2 years of like 90-year-olds with like $500 million. They've done no tax planning. And it's sort of like, I can only help you so much. Those cases are unfortunate. They're looking at $200 million inheritance tax they got to pay. Look, if you would have come to me before you sold your company or before you got, old enough where we can't do planning, I can usually wipe out the inheritance tax as long as I've got 20 years of life expectancy for most cases. So, yes, I think that the moral of the story is before you get rich or as you're getting richer, call up your financial advisor, call up your attorney, and see what you can do about it, because there's so much value it's not rare. I have 1,000, ROI, 1,001 ROI on my fees compared to the estate taxes saved. I've got models that show, 10, 50, $100 million saved by life expectancy. So it's the most really good wealth advisors. They run to an attorney like me right when they get a new big case, because there's no profession in the world that can produce the ROI of an estate tax planning attorney.
Wow, what an insightful discussion with Jonathan Morrison. Jonathan, thank you. He's shown us how the OGT can transform wealth transfer, protecting assets while minimizing taxes for families and business owners. If you're curious about how the OGT might fit into your financial strategy, check out the link in the description to learn more. Taking action now could save your family millions in taxes and secure your legacy for generations. I'm Rich Smith, and I'm here to help you navigate financial strategies that combine growth and security. I invite you to check out that link in the description of this video to help get you on the right path of getting an OGT. And leave me a comment with your thoughts, or let me know what topics you'd like to see next covered on this channel.